Walker Kessler,
Mm.
a triple double with blocks, is whew. I feel for you, buddy, because this is the man who, in conjunction with Brad Davison, ended Roy Williams' career, and it, I think I remember talking to you about him even off air that like you're like Walker Kessler's really good. I don't know if we're gonna miss him that much, but he's yeah. You were trying to figure out like how much of a loss it actually was because
I was doing the
Carolina
calculus. Yeah.
for what it's worth, I'll back you up on this. That like Armando Bacot is a great basketball player, so it's not like it's not like Carolina's like stuck. Like Carolina's problem aren't their big guys, are they? I haven't been watching as closely as you have. Bacot's not the liability, right?
Baycot's not the problem, no. I mean,
Yeah.
the
So
problem is that you have two finesse bigs, and Baycott is not as like dominant. I mean, Baycott's like 6'9", 6'10", you know what I mean? He's not a 7-footer like Walker Kessler or a 6'11", 250-pound guy like Day'Ron Sharp, right? I mean, of all the like Carolina had 4 legit bigs last year: Garrison Brooks, Armando Bacot, Walker Kessler, and Day'Ron Sharp, right? I mean, that was a ridiculous front court to have. And they played the first 2 I named over the last 2, and the last 2 are by far, and as I said last year multiple times, they are by far the most talented players. And Walker Kessler and Day'Ron, if Day'Ron Sharp was on this North Carolina team, he'd be in the conversation for National Player of the Year. I mean, he would be absolutely dominating. Baycot's not that guy. Baycott is a good college basketball player. Everyone keeps telling me he's going to go to the NBA. I don't see that for him. I mean, he may come back to Carolina next year, but Walker Kessler's going to the NBA. I mean,
yes,
and the worst part about it is that Walker Kessler left Carolina because he wanted to shoot threes and turn into like, Ryan Anderson.
Kevin Durant of college basketball.
He wanted to be the Kevin Durant of college basketball. And I think he's taken 5 threes this year, hasn't made one yet, and has turned into like a rim protector.
No, he made one. He made one last night. I remember. Yeah, he made one last night.
Well,
he made one last night.
That adds insult to injury because it's not like Bruce Pearl got him there and it's like, you're going to be the stretch 5. You know what I mean? He's like, you're going to be a rim protector. You're going to do what a big does. And Walker Kessler has bought into that. And I think that makes it hurt even more, because you see it and you're like, man, this guy would have been, I mean, he was great in some games last year where he played, but obviously Bruce Pearl got to him. We talked about that. I mean, that's the transfer portal that we live in, the world that we live in. If you don't play at a school like North Carolina or Duke, other coaches are going to recruit you during the season. And Walker Kessler is now an Auburn Tiger. And watching him play, I mean, it's everything I expected him to be and more. I mean, 11 blocks is ridiculous, and he could have had more. I mean,
he really could have.
That's the crazy thing about it. Yeah.
So I mean, like, how do you
reconcile this? There is no
yeah.
way
How do you because
no way.
I thought that like I was you were complaining all last year that like Kessler and Day'Ron Sharp should be playing more
over Garrison Brooks.
Yeah,
yes.
You hated Garrison Brooks. I'll give you that. Even going into last season, like Garrison Brooks is the preseason ACC Player of the Year, and you're like, this is insane. And it was you hated Garrison Brooks in a surprising way, in the same way that like I hated Reggie Miller, where like people were probably like, oh, I'm sure Tate loves Garrison Brooks because he's a Carolina guy and all that. You're like, no, that's where you're wrong. In fact, I'm his biggest hater.
No, because I actually am a Carolina guy, and that guy did not represent Carolina basketball, but it's okay.
So you were on that train all last year, but at the same time, like Roy was adamant about like, and for what it's worth, like when I would watch Walker Kessler last year, I never it never jumped out to me that he should obviously be playing a lot more minutes over Brooks and Bacot and even Day'Ron Sharp. Like they just kind of had like a way too many big guys. They had the log jam, and I guess if I'm you, Tate, maybe I just say that this is just one of those. You process this in the same way that I process like Joe Burrow going to LSU. From Ohio State, where it's like Dwayne Haskett, you're Jim Calhoun. You're like, he's not bad. He's not like Armando Bacot is not bad. What do you want from me? He's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's got to be tough, dude, to watch Walker Kessler be this good, this fast, as soon as he gets out of Chapel Hill.
I mean, it is exactly what my nightmare was. You know what I mean? My nightmare scenario during the season was that basically Garrison Brooks would torpedo North Carolina basketball into mediocrity. And, he did that for 3 years. I mean, he is the face of why we are irrelevant to the conversation. And, it's not his fault. But when you say, hey, we're putting all of our eggs in a mediocre basket and the media hypes him up as the ACC preseason player of the year, what can Roy do? It's not like Roy can bench the ACC preseason player of the year. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's also a senior leader on the team. You can't do that. So it was just kind of like the worst case scenario all around. And then to have at the end of the year, Hubert Davis takes over the job. The first thing he said at the press conference, I don't even know if you remember this, Titus. He said at the press conference, "I'm going to get Walker Kessler." He was like, "I'm going to go and get Walker Kessler to come back to North Carolina." He like made this like, made like basically a promise that this was like his plan. And Walker Kessler considered it. I'm not going to say that he didn't. Hubert went down there. I think it was a real conversation that was had about it. Should he come back to North Carolina? And we lost him. You know what I mean? His brother lived in Auburn. Was a lawyer in Auburn, and there was like all this conversation about that. I mean, guys from Georgia, yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, it's like it doesn't look good. You know, when you have like a talent like that, and you let him walk away, and you also let him, kind of sully Roy Williams a little bit on the way. I mean, it just literally was. It could not have gone any worse, and it's. A lot of it's PR, a lot of it's, internal communication. And unfortunately, it's just not a good look for North Carolina basketball. And I think and I hope that, it's not something that lingers where we're like looking back on Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith lead Auburn to a Final Four. And you're like, dude, we had a guy of this caliber sitting on our bench for Garrison Brooks. Are you kidding me? Like, that is insane. And that's how I felt all last year. I mean, I was pulling my hair out because I'm like,
Well, who did he actually play behind? Like he played behind Garrison. Would that is that who you would
Garrison's the
say?
5, Baycot's a 4. I mean, that was kind of like how they did it, yeah. And then Kessler. I mean, Kessler wasn't even playing behind. I mean, Dayron was ahead of Kessler, so it basically was like Kessler was the 4th man in the rotation,
That's
and
what I.
Baycott and Brooks had to play, and then Dayron's the first one off the bench, and then Kessler. And Kessler didn't even play in a lot of games. I mean, he had some DMPs, so it's like, I mean,
That's tough.
it's really tough. It's
That's
really
tough,
tough.
dude.
And there's no world in which Coach K would ever have let someone with that kind of talent sit over there in today's time. And, we are who we are. We are Dean Smith, that is Carolina basketball. We give, the senior laden players, the longest leash and the longest leeway. But at some level, you saw the writing on the wall that this was going to end badly. Dayron was definitely going to the draft. I thought Kessler was going to go to the draft. I would have much rather it be like Walker Kessler is on the Atlanta Hawks right now, and he's getting 11 blocks in an NBA game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that would have been that would have been my choice. You know what I mean? Like I would have loved for him to be in the NBA and be like Carolina didn't know how to use me. Like I'd rather that be the conversation.
I like Tony Bradley. He'd be like the Tony Bradley type, where Tony Bradley was one and done, and no one outside of Chapel Hill or the ACC country even remembers his time at Carolina. Really,
National champion Tony Bradley.
That's true.
But yeah, and I lost my mind after that game because Tony Bradley told me he was going to the NBA, and I was like, "What?
why would you do that, Tony? Why?
Why?" But yeah, I mean, it's not good for. I mean, it's good for Auburn fans, but as North Carolina fans, I think. Look, I'm pulling for Walker Kessler, and I know a lot of Carolina fans aren't. They're like, screw this kid forever. I don't operate that way. I think that he kind of got a little bit of a raw deal. I don't like how he had to exit Chapel Hill. I don't think that was the best, but he's also a young kid, and I'm impressed with the way he plays the game, and I like the way he plays the game. So I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, you're not mad, and I think that's the most important thing we focus on is how you're not mad at all.
I'm not mad.
I don't. I'm trying to like positively spin it for you in a way like I don't know what else like Hubert could have done. I guess because it's not Hubert's.
It's not Hubert's fault. It's not Hubert's problem either.
It's kind, but then if it's not Hubert's fault, it's definitely Roy's fault. And now, so you're like, as you're looking to the future, you're like, we'll be fine because like this wasn't Hubert's mess of what happened with Walker Kessler and why he transferred and all that. So like moving forward, we can just put it behind us and like focus on what the program is. But then you have to reconcile that like if it wasn't Hubert's fault, it was probably Roy's fault. And the idea that Walker Kessler ended Roy Williams becomes more credible as you start thinking about it more. That like Walker Kessler not playing and his father complaining about not playing, and then them being proven right, and then Roy looking around and saying like I did this with Marvin Williams, where I took a guy that was going to be a top 5 pick and I brought him off the bench, and he was happy with it. Why can't Walker Kessler be happy with it? And then all the Carolina fans are like, that happened one time, Roy. Just because it worked with Marvin doesn't mean it's going to work with everyone. We have to play these kids. I don't know. I feel for you, buddy. It sucks. You can't win. But that's That's college basketball, though. That's like
Yeah.
that's where we're at. It's going to happen again. It happens with every team. You lose a guy that it's going to happen to everybody. Where you lose a guy you wish you didn't lose, and you have to look up and see him be happy somewhere else.
Well, I will say
Not
this:
fun.
Garrison Brooks plays on Mississippi State. I do not miss him. I have not missed him 1 second. And I know a lot of people keep tweeting at me like Garrison had 18 and 10 tonight. I'm like, great.
Hey there, thanks for watching Titus and Tate. For the full friend of the program experience, subscribe right below and come join us for all things college basketball. The action is heating up. Come join Titus and Tate.